Marvel just dropped a new look at Avengers Doomsday, and I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now because this 2-minute clip has more hidden information packed into it than the entire first trailer combined. 2 Doctor Dooms, a city in ruins, Thor getting knocked out cold, and a mystery figure standing right next to Doom that nobody's talking about yet. By the end of this video, you're going to see this trailer completely differently. Let's get into it. Marvel debuted this footage around D23, technically calling it a special look rather than an official trailer since it runs a little shorter than the first one. But here's the thing, minute for minute, this new footage is more impactful than the full trailer that came before it. And honestly, I wish they'd led with this one first. If you've been following the leaks, you'll recognize a lot of this footage. Some of it already surfaced online months ago through unofficial channels, but seeing it now, in full quality, with proper context, changes everything. This trailer doesn't answer questions, it creates a dozen new ones. That's how well constructed it is. So let's break it down piece by piece. The trailer opens with Sue Storm's voice narrating over the footage, and she's building Victor Von Doom's entire aura before we even see him move. She describes him as the smartest guy in the room. While she's talking, we get our first look inside Doom's throne room, and if you pay attention to the background, you'll notice the same glass paneling that's been used throughout the Doomsday marketing materials. This throne room belongs to Castle Doom itself. Now look at the floor beneath his throne. There's a ring of fire, but it's arranged in a precise circular pattern, not random flames. This location was actually teased earlier through Sadie Sink's Marvel comic appearance, which revealed that this entire floor is covered in Doom's personal spellcasting runes, essentially rooms built specifically for his magic. And here, we finally get to see those runes active, glowing green. That green energy matters, because every single time Doom uses magic in this trailer, it's the same color signature. We also got a great piece of world-building context from WandaVision, which established that when a witch casts runes in a specific space, that space becomes exclusively theirs to control magically. So Doom marking his entire castle floor with runes isn't just aesthetic, it functions like a protection spell. Nobody uses magic inside Castle Doom unless Victor allows it. Back to Sue's narration, she describes Victor as different, kind, caring, and in this exact moment, you can see tears in her eyes. There are 2 ways to read that. Either she has a real emotional connection to who Victor used to be, and she's mourning who he's become. Or she personally witnessed a loss, someone from the Fantastic Four team dying or disappearing, and that's what's breaking her down. Either way, one thing becomes clear here. This version of Doom belongs to Earth 828, the Fantastic Four's home reality. Sue wouldn't know him this intimately otherwise. There's also a clever editing trick worth pointing out. Right after Sue's speech, we cut to Magneto, Gambit, and a few other characters, and it's framed to feel like they're all in the same room listening to her story. But look closely at Sue's background compared to theirs. It's completely different lighting, different setting. It actually looks like she's on the Fantastic Four's ship, similar to that sunlit scene between Thor and Steve we saw in the earlier trailer. Which raises an interesting possibility. Sue isn't telling the story to the mutants at all. She's telling it to someone else entirely, possibly Steve Rogers, which would make sense given how much groundwork still needs to be laid for Steve and Doom's dynamic. From there, we get a quick series of shots. Magneto shows up with visible injuries, his arm in a sling. That detail actually makes sense mechanically. Magneto channels his powers through hand movement, so disabling his arm is a legitimate way to neutralize him mid-fight. This could be fallout from the X-Men vs. Avengers confrontation we saw earlier, or possibly the team regrouping at Xavier's mansion afterward to strategize. Then, Steve Rogers appears again, back in his home, but his look has noticeably changed from that clean-cut version we saw in the first trailer. Something's happened to him. Now let's talk about Doom's design, because there's a lot going on here. His eyes glow green throughout the trailer. In the comics, Doom's eye color usually varies, often brown, but plenty of writers and artists shifted to green specifically to represent his magic. So it's very possible his natural eye color is something else entirely, and the green is purely a visual signature of how deep he's gone into sorcery. Also worth noting, the mask design avoids that hollow, empty socket look you'd normally get from a metal mask with visible eyes. There's a subtle indentation built into the design specifically to prevent that effect. It's a small detail, but it's a genuinely smart creative choice. Next, Doom is shown standing in front of a portrait, timed perfectly with Sue's narration about him losing everything. There are 2 possibilities for who's in that portrait. It could be his wife and child, lost to some multiversal incursion. But if you know Doom's character at all, if this were his wife and child, he'd have placed himself in the portrait too. Since he's absent from the image, the far more likely answer is that this is Doom as a child, with his mother. If you look closely at how Doom is touching the portrait, one hand resting on his chest, the child in the painting is holding that exact same pose. That's not a coincidence. This lines up perfectly with the comics, where Doom's entire life mission revolves around saving his mother, Cynthia Von Doom, a powerful witch who made a desperate deal with a demonic entity that turned out to be Mephisto to protect her family. She got the power she needed, but Mephisto claimed her soul in return. Once Doom learns his mother's soul is trapped in hell, freeing her becomes his singular obsession, and it's directly tied to how he loses his face and transforms into the Doom we know. If this movie is building toward that same loss, it tracks perfectly with the comics. After that, we cut to Wakanda, or what looks like Talokan's throne room, with Namor standing among them, seemingly having joined their coalition. Then we see Doom standing on some elevated platform above open water, and critically, he's not alone. Someone is standing beside him, and we genuinely don't know who yet. It's possible this connects to the Latverian witches teased earlier. The Russo brothers have said outright that we're only just beginning to understand the world Doom has built around himself, meaning he's not operating solo inside that castle. He has people supporting him, advising him. In the comics, once Doom becomes emperor during the Secret Wars era, he keeps a close circle around him, including a right-hand figure who maintains order and offers counsel, and that role has historically belonged to Doctor Strange. So it's entirely possible that mystery figure beside Doom is Strange, though that dynamic is usually something that gets fully established later in Secret Wars, rather than here. Still, we can't rule it out. Now here's where things get genuinely strange. We see someone else standing behind Doom, and if you look at their chest, they're wearing the exact same sigil Doom uses, some kind of Latverian enforcer. We also get a much closer look at Doom's armor here, and it's beautifully detailed, layered runes across the chest, a red gemstone embedded in the design, giving him this formidable, almost regal warrior aesthetic. Then we get one of the most disturbing shots in the entire trailer. New York City, completely devastated. And I don't mean lightly damaged. Buildings are down, the ground itself is cratered like something crashed into it repeatedly. Central Park is on fire, and there's visible plane wreckage in the middle of it all. So which New York is this? It's clearly not our main timeline, because Marvel isn't going to level their primary universe this early. The most likely answer is that this is the X-Men's Earth, tying back to the destruction we already saw at Xavier's mansion. If incursions are happening and Doom is causing chaos across realities, it would explain why Reed grabs Doom by the collar and demands to know if he's responsible, or alternatively, why he's furious because this is their world, their New York. The aesthetic doesn't quite match the retro-futuristic tone we saw in Fantastic Four, First Steps though, which makes that specific timeline slightly less likely. Another theory: this could be the Earth we saw Xavier watching get destroyed through Cerebro back in the first trailer. If that's the case, the crashed ship might belong to the X-Men themselves, arriving on a different Earth to try and neutralize a threat before it reaches their own reality, which is exactly how incursions play out in the comics. One Earth's heroes crossing over to eliminate the other side first. That would also explain Magneto's injuries. He's clearly been in a serious fight.
We then get a Loki shot, same location as before, most likely Steve's home. Look carefully behind Loki. There's what appears to be a hand near the window or reflected somewhere in frame, and it might, and I stress might, be Doom's gauntlet. If Doom really is present in that scene, it would explain exactly why Loki shows up at Steve's door in the first place, either to warn him or recruit him for what's coming. Next, we see Sharon Carter and Ghost aboard a ship, but it's a completely different vessel from the Fantastic Four's ship we've seen elsewhere. Their expressions suggest they've just witnessed something seriously alarming. We'll get to that in a future breakdown. Now for the moment everyone's going to be talking about. Doom crashes through a window and lands in a dramatic superhero pose. But watch it again slowly, because that's not what's actually happening. It looks like Doom was thrown out of that building, hit hard enough to go through the glass and fall, and only mid-fall does he pull himself together and shift into that composed landing stance. So who's powerful enough to send Dr. Doom flying through a window? Considering what he does to Thor later in this same trailer, that's not a small question. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Doom's outfit in this specific shot is different from every other appearance in the trailer. Only one sigil on his chest, noticeably less armored, almost like an earlier, weaker version of himself. And the location, some kind of tower structure, doesn't match anywhere we've seen him before. There was actually a very early set photo that leaked when filming first began, showing this exact same tower, and out of everyone associated with this project, only one character has the raw power to physically launch Doom out of a building like that. So the most likely explanation is Doom got beaten, fell, and used that fall to trigger a transformation into a stronger version of himself before going after the X-Men, Thor, and everyone else. But there's a second theory worth throwing out there, however loosely. What if there are two Dooms? I'm not saying that's confirmed. Then we cut to Thor approaching Doom, and this fight sequence is genuinely brutal. Thor tries a lightning strike through Stormbreaker first, which fails completely. When he goes in for a direct attack, Doom stops him with 2 fingers, tosses Stormbreaker aside like it's nothing, and counters. Notice the background in this shot. It's the same tower Doom fell from earlier, which raises the obvious question. If he was thrown out of that building in different clothing, how did his armor instantly change? It's possible since we do see him casting something mid-air, and there's a small object that flies off his suit during that motion, maybe a badge or sigil. But why would Doom willingly downgrade to a weaker-looking suit right before this fight, especially one that so effortlessly takes Thor down? One more detail. In the tower fall, there's no cloth band visible on Doom's left wrist, but in the fight scene against Thor, he's got a wrapped band on that same wrist, most likely something honoring his mother or whatever loss he's carrying. His cape covers it partially in the fall, and I genuinely could not find a trace of white thread there, which brings us back to that 2 Doom theory. Maybe not confirmed, but definitely not off the table either. During the Thor fight, Doom's energy signature isn't just green anymore. There's a subtle blend of black woven into it, and this isn't random blasting. If you slow it down, you can see quick, deliberate finger movements activating the rune etched into his palm before each spell fires. This is not surface-level magic. This is deep, dark sorcery, visually similar to the energy signature Wanda and Doctor Strange used at the end of Multiverse of Madness, that same black blended aura. The scale of power on display here is wild. Normally, when Thor takes a hit, he staggers, maybe gets knocked back but stays conscious. Here, the moment Doom's attack connects, Thor is instantly unconscious. His body just goes limp, completely out of his own control. That's not a normal hit. That's Doom operating on an entirely different level of power. Doom follows up by slamming a second spell into the ground, sending out shockwaves of green flame. And notice, he even seems to add a little extra height to himself in this pose, which, honestly, that's peak Doom behavior, standing taller than Thor purely out of ego. Classic. That same spell reanimates a group of sentinels nearby, and if you look closely, there are black dot patterns layered into the spell effect, which could represent the darker magic at play, or possibly Doom blending sorcery with technology, since reviving mechanical sentinels probably takes more than pure magic alone.
And then, the line that closes it all out. Answer to me, for I am Doom. This is, without question, 100% Dr. Doom. There's no trace of Robert Downey Jr. left in this performance. Nothing in his eyes, his movement, his voice gives away the actor underneath. If you didn't already know who was playing him, you genuinely couldn't tell. That's the full breakdown of the Doomsday special look. Personally, this felt more like an actual trailer than a teaser, and it did something a lot of Marvel marketing hasn't managed to do in years. It made me want to watch the movie right now, not months from now. We're barely a month out from this footage dropping, and if Marvel keeps revealing pieces like this, the road to Doomsday is going to get very interesting, very fast. And this basically puts the earlier leaked footage debate to rest too, since everything unofficial that circulated has now been folded into official marketing. So keep this theory in your back pocket, because we might not be dealing with one Doctor Doom in this movie. We might be dealing with 2.